Hey, Raquel, how you doing? How's the volume? Hey there.
No.
How you doing? Do you hear me all right now?
Yeah, I can hear you this time.
Brilliant, that's fine. UFC Bantamweight Raquel Pennington, thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. No problem at all. It's good to chat. We spoke, I think, earlier part of the year last year. It's good to finally get you back on, have a wee chat. So, before we jump into fight kind of stuff, how was the holidays? How was the Christmas season in your life?
It was really good. I was obviously in camp during Thanksgiving here, and it was just kind of one of those things to where I obviously had to stay disciplined and stuff. So I kind of just really lived it up on Christmas and enjoyed the time, enjoyed family time. Went on vacation. I just got back from vacation, I think like 4 or 5 days ago. So it was needed.
Yeah, it was a very, if we can put it into a year, it was a very winning year for you, certainly in the sense of the fights and a lot of family get-togethers and a lot of family at the fights as well. Is this probably one of the better Christmases for you based on all the stars aligning and everything coming together?
Yeah, it was just obviously like everything. For one, just kind of everything this past year in general. Like it's been a great year, just getting back to myself with a lot of things and just really excelling. And um, a lot of things are just happening. And then I had a new niece that was born. And so it was kind of just something to really look forward to. And then, I've been in two back to back fight camps and didn't have the opportunity to really eat or enjoy life. So then I started to actually get the opportunity to eat all the food and just kind of relax and decompress. And then took a road trip and got to see all my family and just spend genuine quality time and not have to worry about having to get back home because I need to get back to camp. Like I can actually just stay there and hang out until I was ready to come back.
Yeah, so it means more than most. Congratulations on the niece. Now,
Thank you.
traveling, where about were you traveling? I seen that there was a lot of road trips going on. Was that local or was that kind of going across a couple of different states?
So I went from Colorado to Florida.
Yeah,
I mean, across the United States, pretty much.
awesome. You been to Scotland before?
No, I want to get my way there though.
Yeah, what do you know about Scotland? Have you got anything that you can identify as being Scotland apart from Outlander or anything like that?
No, for one, I just like the accents. Two, I hear it's like just like really green. And then don't you guys have like a lot of history and stuff there?
Yeah, we've got a lot of history, not some of our proudest history, if I'm honest. A lot of colonialism, a lot of colonial type stuff. But if we're talking about architecture, nature, green, it's got very much a similarity to certain parts of America. So, given Colorado, I think it's perhaps going to be one of the places. If you do visit, you'll maybe see some similarities, not with the weather, but certainly with the landscape.
Yeah, I definitely want to make my way out there. So it's on the bucket list.
Yeah, get it done. Now we'll just jump to the fight. So December 18th, Macy Chiesa, and you eventually managed to get another fight. That's your second trip to the Octagon in 2021. How is it getting rid of all the big gaps? We've seen you been very active at one point in your career, then you were plagued by injuries, and then you had a number of different setbacks. So getting back into the mix, having a busy year, how did it feel? Is it kind of like it's been a long time coming to get to this stage?
Yeah, it's just the setbacks. It's been life, it just throws curveballs all the time and whatnot. But as an athlete, the ups and downs are just extremely frustrating. So I've had a rough go since 2016, whether it's been injury, whether it's been a medical issue, whether it's been suspension due to a medical situation. Like it's just been nonstop. Um, and I'm one individual. There's only so much I can take. So it took a huge toll on me, but now it was kind of, I did an interview earlier and we were talking about it. And it was just one of those things to where, COVID was good for some people and it was bad for some people. And for
Yeah.
me, It was when I actually got COVID, the worst thing on the planet. I've never felt so much fear, but just COVID in general hitting the world. I mean, it gave me the opportunity to genuinely slow down, like regroup, refocus, kind of tune back in with myself and get into a place that like I've been truly desiring for a really long time, but I just had a hard time doing it. And I didn't have to feel any negative emotion with it. I didn't have to feel guilt or regret for not being in the gym that day. Like I had no choice but to not be in the gym. Like I had to make a home gym. And so, and then I just got to really focus on my mental state and different things and have fun again and relight my passions with everything. So now it's just been kind of one of those things to getting back at it and coming back from the whole USADA suspension and stuff. I just feel extremely motivated. I feel excited. I made a ton of changes in my camp. I always talk about how with this sport, like it's a very physical sport, but it's honestly 90% mental, 10% physical. So, you know, I did a lot of things with my mental state and whatnot. And I think it's starting to actually show. And, you know, for a while there, I feel like I like lost a lot of respect when it came to as an athlete. I mean, you look at my resume, I've fought in the best of the best. Like I've done a lot and like I deserve credit, but that's how it goes in athletic sports. I mean, you sit here and you have a winning team, everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon. You have a losing team, but your true fans will remain there. So I feel like, you know, now for one, just kind of getting back to who I am, being comfortable like with myself again and like knowing exactly what kind of athlete and stuff that I am and all the skills that I just hold and having that confidence again and being 100% healthy. Like it plays such a significant part. And then, you know, my last performance couldn't have ended the year any better.
Yeah, knocked it out the park. Now, if I do say so myself, your demeanour and the way that you come across, your overall, there's a kind of a calm and content version of you. The last time we spoke, you were similar, but as we said, it was different. There was a lot of uncertainty. What was going on? When am I going to fight? We talked about the suspension very briefly as well. So is this the most calm and collected Raquel Pennington we've seen for quite some time?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I just feel, for one, I feel like I'm hitting my prime. And so, and then I'm a veteran of the sport. Like this isn't my first rodeo. You know, I'm comfortable in my own skin again. My health is under control. I'm extremely happy with my environment when that comes to the relationships around me, my gym life, my home life, everything. And, you know, it's kind of one of those things to where in life, like you have to have your ducks in a row. And even though I'm a super spontaneous and adventurous person, like I have a career that like mentally, physically, and emotionally, all those things need to align. And so now all those things align and I can go out there and put on great performances and just have fun while I'm doing it.
As they say, as many fighters that I've spoken to as well, that's pretty much what they say. I mean, we know it's a very physical, it's a very violent sport in many aspects, but it's always about the kind of surroundings and what it's like going in. So when you go in there, as you said, it's about having fun because everything outside, the sacrifice you've all made, the team you've got around you, it's all in one place and everything's kind of harmonious in that way. So that's awesome. Now, we just want to jump on to the fight. Macy Chiesa, 10-finger choke. That's your first finish in quite some time as well. How did it feel to get a finish since, I think it was Jessica and Raj fight when you last got a nice submission finish? Is it good to get back into that?
Yeah, it's been like 6 years. You know, overall, it's extremely exciting. Obviously, we prepare for a fight and we prepare to go 15 minutes or 25 minutes in a main event or world title fight. So just in general, when you put in all that hard work and all the weeks leading up to it, and you don't have to go 15 minutes, I mean, what kind of relief is that? And so, I mean, just in general, it's exciting when you have an opponent that a lot of people are giving a lot of hype to and stuff and whatnot, and then you can go out there and you can actually finish them. I mean, it's super rewarding, and there's a rush of emotion that comes behind all of it, just the fight in general, and then getting a finish and everything. For me, win or lose, it's all rewarding because at the end of the day, I'm doing personal growth and just like I'm always learning and getting better and stuff. And another thing that's exciting is just how I feel like it's a good reminder to the world because the world categorizes me as this brawler. And overall, I'm a well-rounded fighter. So, I mean, whether it's going to be wrestling, whether it's going to be striking, or whether it's going to be grappling into jiu-jitsu, like my game is there regardless. And, you know, it's just kind of one of those things to where leading into a fight, I feel like I've been in a lot of fights where I beat myself mentally before even getting in there. And now I'm in a place to where in that fight, like when I looked across the octagon, once I turned around, like I didn't see Macy, I seen myself, and I was like, all right, how am I going to beat myself tonight? And apparently it was a choke.
Yeah, you against you. Now, did you find anything interesting about the way that Macy fought? We know that Macy's got a tendency to be aggressive yourself, very aggressive as well when you want to be. Now, was there anything not off about her, because your performance was spectacular, but do you think there was anything, like, she never seemed to bring out that kind of dog in her that we've been used to seeing? Do you feel that you just had answers that were preventing her from getting anything out there?
I think a lot of things, like I said, I mean, she could have had a lot of things leading up to it, before even stepping into the octagon. At the same time, I mean, even my fight against Penny, she's had very aggressive moments, and we expected her to come out extremely aggressive, and that was not the case. And then Aldana's out here knocking girls out and doing all kinds of stuff, but when she fought me, like, that wasn't the case. So like I said, I mean, I'm a veteran of the sport, and I'm going to give myself credit. And I think, as an athlete, because me even being the athlete, like, I'm going to respect exactly what my opponent brings to the table. And especially if I'm like climbing the ladder and I have that opportunity, So it's just like, I feel like there was a level of respect there too. Like, I mean, I have hands behind me when they start flying. And I think, my experiences in previous fights, I expect one thing, and then when I realize something different from my opponents.
So after the fight, you said you're starting to feel it yourself again. Now, when we're looking into that, we know that you've got a kind of pattern for winning now. It's becoming like a quite the win streak now. So I'm just thinking, when you're saying that now after so many fights, how didn't you say it before? Is there a different feeling? Because the other performances were great. You got some nice decision wins, but do you feel that combining your kind of confidence at the moment, the ability that you've got, the fact that you made a big statement, is this getting back to the way that you were when you first started before you had a number of setbacks?
Yeah, like I said, I kind of just had the opportunity to like tune in with myself again. And now I'm a wiser version of myself, and I'm hitting my prime. I'm trusting in all the things around me. Like, my ducks are in a row with things, and it was a long journey to get here, but it's kind of one of those things to where, you could take your vitamins and you can put in all the work, but if your head and your heart ain't right, it doesn't matter. And that's kind of what my life was. Like, my environment wasn't going well. There was things that I was quite, like, I had so many beat downs as an individual with my body, watching it drastically change. And as an athlete, like, I think we're some of the most in tune people with our bodies. I didn't even know what my body was doing. And so to not have that within myself, and then it just felt like one thing after another. It doesn't matter how strong you are. Like, I like to consider myself a strong individual, but it took a massive toll on me. I started experiencing feelings I've never experienced before. Like, I experienced a level of depression. I started experiencing anxiety, and it was all foreign to me. I never knew what any of that was. And so, but then I'm playing an internal warfare with myself, because it was like, I want to be like exactly who I've been. I want to get back out there. Like, I know those feelings, and I'm like aching for it so bad, but then the reality setting in and what's going on. And so it was just like this weird internal warfare going on. And, I mean, I've had some good fights out there and put on some good performances, but like, everything hasn't been aligned. And that's not to say everything's always going to be aligned, but, now, like, I'm in a great place when it comes to it all, whether it's like my personal life, my outside life, and doing things, and the relationships I have surrounding me, my gym life, my own like spiritual journey, my own like individual journey within myself. Everything's just together now.
And would you say it's
health is under control? And hormones are a massive thing that people, like, they're extremely like undereducated on. And hormones they play a huge impact on us as individuals. So now that like my thyroid's under control and my hormones are more balanced out and everything, like, that's a significant difference, especially in a sport where we're constantly playing with our bodies and changing hormones and doing everything.
And with regards to that, I mean, do you think this is the first time personally that I've heard more about it? We hear a lot about the physical element, the mental element, all the stereotypes of a fighter, if you will. But do you feel like this is, in your life, significant in the sense that there's going to be a lot of awareness needing to be made for that. Have you been able to reach out to people, put some kind of share some posts and try and encourage fellow fighters or fans to look into this side of things as well? Because, as I said, for yourself, you've always had the tough exterior. We've seen you throughout the years. We've seen a lot of changes, but I think a more sensitive, more emotional side, as you said, hormonal. Do you feel that this is something that people need to be made aware of more?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, everybody, like, our bodies are always going to do something, whether it's at a young age or as we're getting older and everything else. Like, the body is constantly changing and hormones play a massive part. And, you know, I think a lot of people's concept of hormones is women. They're like, oh, you guys are crazy once a month and all this stuff. And like, that's their judgment on hormones. But a lot of people don't realize like the different impacts that it actually plays, whether you're male or female, and the things that it actually does to you. And then how once physically you're feeling a certain way and things are happening. Like for me, I mean, with my thyroid being off, I'm gaining significant weight, but yet I'm supposed to be a professional athlete, have no clue what's going on. I mean, my body was just doing the craziest things. I'm losing hair, like I'm balding and doing all this weird stuff. And that's going to turn around. It's going to take a toll on your mental state and your emotional state. And then it's just a spiral down the rabbit hole. And people don't pay attention to those things. You know, I mean, you can have a high level of stress in your life, and some people's bodies react to where you're losing weight. Other people's bodies react to where all of a sudden you're gaining all this weight, and you may not understand that. It just comes from the stress that your environment's surrounding with. So there's a lot of things that like do play a significant part in it. And, you know, I think it always helps, and it's always good to grow and learn. And, everybody, like, we all have room to where we can learn something. And I think when it comes to it, a lot of people are really undereducated with hormones.
Yeah. And hopefully through you speaking out and a lot of other people speaking out, that's something that perhaps becomes a bit more awareness, certainly for people in all walks of life, but certainly in fighting when it's a very underlooked type of study. Now, talking about differences between yourself and like fighters. So for example, you're a veteran of the sport. You're still very young in the sport. I mean, we've seen fighters kind of fight right up until the time when many people say it should stop. How do you feel about, I mean, you train with a lot of young fighters. I mean, Miranda Maverick, there's a lot of fighters that are coming up as well. What kind of motivation do you get now? Looking down at them, they're just kind of coming up in this world. You've been there a long time, but you're still very much a dog in the same way that you've always been. Is there an extra motivation coming on in there? Just kind of looking, going, yeah, I can still take you. I can still get down in the dirt with yourself. Do you feel like that? Is there a motivation there?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, you have all these athletes who are coming in and extremely talented and starting at young ages. And that's the thing, that's the beauty of it. Like, you get a longer window to be an athlete and do what you love and truly excel and grow. But at the end of the day, I mean, I went on that same journey, and it's that being versus becoming. Like, I wouldn't want to be my 19-year-old self starting in the sport, or even 24-year-old at that point. Like, you know, I mean, I've done successful things and I've had experience and whatnot, but now, like, I'm 33, and there's a point that like we really do hit our prime. And I feel now like I'm at my prime, and everybody's going to experience that. You have these young athletes who come in and, you know, they might be extremely successful, and then all of a sudden they take their first loss or whatever it is. And then they have to learn all the emotions that come along with it. They have to learn how to pick themselves back up. They have to learn how to deal with that ego and all the different things and their pride being broken and stuff. And, you know, when you're sitting here and you're weathering through that for so many years, and then now all of a sudden you're getting into your prime and all the things are aligning, like, not only do I have all the knowledge and a ton of skill all these years, but I have all the experience. It's not my first rodeo. Like, there's so much that plays a part into it. And so, you know, I mean, my motivation is just exciting to see what I can do in these prime years.
Looking very much prime performance. Now, just talking about performance now, the Bantamweight division, it's been shook up on side its head now. There's been a lot of changes going on, a lot of differences going on between people who were once regarded as not being competitive in that division are now suddenly rising up to the top. We'll get to who we're talking about now. UFC 269, a lot of changes, a lot of momentum changes and shifts. Now, just looking at yourself, taking away the fact that you've got a friendship with Amanda Nunes, like, if you can look at it just as a fighter, what do you think happened in there? I mean, you would know perhaps more than most of us as a fighter being in that side of things.
You know, I mean, just in general, watching watching interviews, watching the fight and stuff, like Amanda's demeanor just seemed extremely different. And, you know, like I said, the sport is 90% mental, 10% physical. And it's one of those things to where, again, you can work as hard as you want. You can take all the vitamins, you can do all the things, but if your head and your heart ain't right, it's not going to matter. It's going to play a part into your performance. And I feel like that was Amanda's case. You know, I feel like you have Julianna, she came back from all her adversity and the different things and being on the sidelines or whatever, and coming back and getting some of her wins and doing different things. But she like is just bound and determined, has this goal. And then you have Amanda, who's a champion, and she's carrying the weight of the world. Plus she became a mom. And then obviously she is outspoken now about like her whole gym situation and the different things going on and having to make changes. So I think there was just a lot like riding on her shoulders and stuff, but she just seemed off. And then when she spoke about the fact that she had an adrenaline dump, I mean, first and foremost, being an athlete and actually experiencing that myself, like that's one of the worst feelings. It's terrible. Like Amanda looked phenomenal cutting to 135. You could tell she put in the work, but it doesn't matter. Like to have an adrenaline dump, you're in a fight. You're in the moment of a fight and your body is not going to do what your mind is telling it to. And that's an extremely scary feeling. For one, you have somebody come and try to take your head off and you're supposed to be trying to perform. And it's just kind of like you're out of your body at that point and you got to survive. And then with Julianna, you know, she took her into those deep waters. So then you have an adrenaline dump filled with emotion. Like it's game over from there. And that's exactly what we've seen. And people are like, you know, Amanda gave up and all this other stuff. Like she didn't give up. She fought with emotion and you can't do that. And so when she fought with the emotion, then all of a sudden you have somebody who has a grit to her and she's on her back. And then you add a choke on top of that. Like it's going to suck the life out of you just like that. Like, but you know what? That's a fight, like 50-50 chance when you get in there. And that's exactly what happened. I think it's one of those moments to where even though Amanda was a reigning champion, like we all grow and we're human beings and we're not invincible. And so she had this little setback and now this will be her chance to grow as an individual and see how am I going to bounce back? Like, what am I going to do? You know?
Yeah, you said it. So if we're talking about new champ, a lot of people, when there's a lot of dominance going on, a lot of people complain about it being pretty stagnant. As a competitor in the division, how do you feel about the changes that have been made in terms of a new champ and a lot of people talking about new fights that are going to happen and new competition? How do you feel overall about that?
You know, I feel like it shook up the division in general. And why I say that is because, you know, when Ronda was the champion, and I can absolutely be wrong, but talking to other athletes and seeing things like when Ronda was the champion, you know, a lot of people were just beat by that idea before even stepping in there and fighting her. And I feel like Amanda doing all the successful things that she did in her career, and being a two division champion and all these things and being extremely dominant champion. I think a lot of people were obviously they want that world title shot. They want to get out there and do it. But I think mentally it played a big toll on them and people weren't putting on their performances. So then Amanda's looking even more dominant than anything. And now that the world realized again, hey, she's a human being, she can be beat. I think it shook up the division in that aspect. Yeah. And then on top of that, I mean, you have a lot of people who are contenders here. As a person and as a fan looking, like the top 5, the top 10, like everybody deserves a freaking chance. As a competitor, please get out of my way. So that way I can go get my world title shot back. Yeah. And then obviously with the shake in the division, I mean, you're not going to have somebody who is such a dominant reigning champion. And then it's going to be like, oh, she lost. Okay, who's next in line? So now all of a sudden it kind of puts the frustration in there because they're going to have the rematch. And then let's say Amanda goes out there and beats Julianna. Well, then with the way the sport's been going, here we are with a trilogy fight coming. So it's like, you know, there's a lot of motion to go with it and the different things that are occurring. But at the end of the day, I can't control any of that crap. And, you know, I have goals and I want to focus on those, whether they happen in my timeline or not. Like at the end of the day, the goals are going to happen at some point. So I'm just focusing on what I can control.
Yeah. So you done I don't think it was a poll. You done a post a couple of weeks ago. I was going to ask you about it back then, but a lot of people were commenting on who was going to be your next opponent or who should we see you face next. Did you have a look through the comments and see what the most popular vote was?
You know, I never tallied them up. When I would click on my Instagram, you know, I've seen the different answers and whatnot. In general, for me, obviously I want to climb the ladder again. And so I want to fight anybody within the top 5. Before the whole suspension thing happened, you know, I was ranked number 4. And then when I got suspended, they were like, oh, we'll put you back in there where you came out. But when they put me back, I was at number 10. And I think now I'm at number 7.
Yeah.
In general, for me, the rankings don't matter. I love the challenges, and everybody brings a challenge to the table. I don't care if you're number 1. I don't care if you're the champion or you're ranked number 50. Like, you're here and you bring a different challenge. So I love that idea. But in the aspect of actually making things happen and like excelling my career forward, we got to fight the best of the best. And even though my resume, like, I've already fought a lot of the best, if not all of them already, like, I want to fight within the top 5. And so, like, you know, I listen to people or like read people and like see what the fans would love to see and everything, or like their opinions. But at the end of the day, like, I mean, it comes down to what we can make happen with UFC and stuff. And, you know, some people get things made by making all the commotion and ruckus on social media stuff. I've always been quiet and just been me and authentic to who I am. And so we'll see my next step.
Yeah. Personally, I'd like to see Kettle and Vieira. I think that'd be a good fight. There's a lot of narratives. You're pretty close together. And talking about her last fight, you've got a wee bit of a connection there as well. What do you think about that? Because you will have thought about that, obviously.
What?
You will, yeah, you will have envisioned yourself fighting Kettle, no doubt, just based on how close you are together, and she's in front of you pretty much.
Absolutely. It's funny because I was actually just talking with the matchmakers today, and like, I'm like, hey, give me her.
Yeah.
But you know, there's the whole thing with Holly Holm too. She was out with an injury and stuff and coming back, and obviously they're trying to match up like people in the top 5 and doing different things. And so it's kind of one of those things to where, I don't know. At the end of the day, a paycheck's a paycheck in a fight. To go out there and get another win, put on another great performance, like, that's always fun. And so I wouldn't mind doing that either. But to just for the goals that I personally want to set for myself or have set for myself this year, like, I would love that. So I did ask for her.
Yeah.
But we'll see how things play out.
All I know
is I'm persistent and consistent on bugging people and trying to make things happen.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now, Miesha Tate, if Miesha Tate was to have beat Caitlin Vieira, many people were talking about she can just kind of jump right to the belt. I'm sure she might have commented on that herself. Do you think that beating Caitlin Vieira, do you think that you would be able to want a title shot, or do you think you maybe got another 1 or 2 fights after that before you can claim that?
You know, it's just kind of crazy how things work. Honestly, like, I don't think Caitlyn's the one that like is the contender fight. I think like, will it play out for an exciting fight? And is she above me at this point? Absolutely. But you know, I feel like from taking the competitor side out of me, I feel like Aldana is the one. And I already beat Aldana back in 2018. And then here she is knocking out all these girls. I mean, she finished Caitlyn, you know? And so it's just kind of like, I feel like Aldana is the contender fight. And as far as Miesha, you know, I mean, you know, I have respect for Miesha as a person and everything else and whatnot, and as a fighter. But with that being said, like, you don't get 5 years off. And then the fact that she just comes back and it's like, oh, I want my belt back and all this other stuff. Like, absolutely. I love the determination. I love the motivation. I love everything. But like, girl, you've been out for 5 years. There is a lot happening here. There's a lot of
change.
Work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of people who have worked to get to exactly where they're at, and they deserve that opportunity more than you. And that's the frustrating part, is because sometimes when you have a name, sometimes the different things, like, it gives you those opportunities. But you know, I mean, that would have been extremely frustrating if that was the case. Extremely frustrating, because so many more athletes deserve that shot before Miesha did.
Yeah, I think that would have been the talk of the town. I think a lot of people would have said the same thing. And that, personally, I believe that that's right. At the end of the day, name value plays a very big part in this sport. But you've got a name in yourself, so I could see you being able to make an argument. But yeah, I think working your way back is the only way possible. So what are you thinking then for this year? How early you want to get back in there?
Well, I was trying to get back in there like yesterday. So, you know, I mean, the sooner the better. I would love to fight like 2 more fights and put on some really good performances. And I mean, overall in general, like I would love to fight for the world title at the end of 2022. So I'm just like, hey guys, like hurry up, let's speed this process up so that way the fights that are already matched up, because I mean, like I said, I want to fight Ketlin and things are already happening with certain matchups, or even Aspen Ladd or anybody within the top 5, but they're all lined up and whatnot. And so it's kind of just one of those things where I want to wait to see how it plays out, but then I don't want to wait around. So I don't know, 2 more fights and a world title shot. Those are my goals. Will it happen? Who knows? But if it doesn't, then you know what, like still gonna go out there and at least I want 2 fights before the year is over, if not 3.
Yeah. Now UFC London's happening in March. Now that's crossed near our neck of the woods. Has anything been brought up like that? That'd be good. It's March, not too far away. We've just been told in the UK there's a lot of changes being made with COVID. Things are dying down a little bit. I think UFC London's going to be happening. Would you want to fight as early as that?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I wouldn't mind if fighting in January. So it's just kind of one of those things where like, yeah, get me on the first card. I think that March is actually full as far as the cards are. So I know that they were talking about April. I would love to get a fight in April. But we'll see.
Hope you get a fight in April. We're looking forward to seeing you back. I think that very much, as we've kind of referred to before, you seem very much in the prime. A lot of great fights. You're getting finishes again. We're seeing the classic Raquel Pennington, but even to say that now, I think we're seeing you in a way now that we can probably appreciate what you've done in the past, but focus more so on now and what's happening moving forward. So hopefully April, if not, something else can maybe happen in the summer and get you back in. So appreciate your time. And I just want to say congratulations on your IVF journey. It's a very nice and a brave thing to share with social media. We're actually, if we're talking personal, we're going through the same thing across at my neck of the woods as well. So it's great again that you're getting a lot of awareness going on and showing a lot of people that they're able to achieve and try and chase things and hopefully help people in the process as well as yourself.
Yeah. Hey, congratulations on that. That's super exciting. For me, you know, I mean, it's kind of one of those things to where we were going to keep it on the DL and just kind of stay quiet about it and stuff. But I mean, you know, that's kind of the thing with social media. I feel like, and you know, I could be guilty of this at times or whatnot. I feel like for me, I just try to stay authentic to who I am. And if you like me, like me. If you don't, then hey, move on. I don't really care. It's just about being authentic to who I am and stuff. But there are so many people, just the fact of the experience that I had on The Ultimate Fighter and the struggles that people were having when it came to like being true to themselves and whether they were gay or lesbian or whatever they identify as, and seeing those struggles. You know, I like having my private life and kind of just being in my own world with that. But then for social media, I mean, you can use social media as a positive platform. There's a lot of people in the world who genuinely do struggle. It doesn't mean you have to make your life look perfect. We're all human beings and we all have struggle, and I have my struggle too. I like being more private about my struggles, but will I get on social media sometimes and be like, hey, like life sucks today, like here's an uplifter or something, or like looking for maybe something, whatever, on my own? Absolutely. But I just believe, like, you know, I mean, my journey can inspire somebody and somebody else's journey inspires me. And I think for one, that's what makes me a good coach as far as coaching high school gymnastics or even helping other athletes in MMA, is because it's just a positive circle. Like as much as I might inspire all these other people, and just because I have a platform that I'm functioning on, there are people in this world that absolutely inspire me every single day. And that's what, you know, my athletes do for me. They inspire me too. And just watching, I feel like my young self again, just watching it, and it's motivating or whatever else. And it's same thing when it comes to my IVF journey. You know, we were going to keep it quiet and just kind of like go on with our life and stuff and the decisions we were making and everything. But it's one of those things where I was just like, you know what, like this can impact somebody, or it can like help somebody to, if they're scared or they've had struggles. And, you know, I think the frustrating part that came out of it for me is just the way that the world has opinions and judges things on all basis. And, you know, I think a lot of people are naive to the situation. They just right away put it in, well, you're trying to play God and do all this other stuff, and why don't you do things the natural way? And, you know, sometimes this is the natural way for people, regardless of just because I choose to be with a woman or whatever. But there's heterosexual couples out there who absolutely struggle and cannot do things. And this the way that you have to go about it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So overall, it's been a cool journey to like make myself vulnerable to that situation, share it with the world and stuff. And I've gotten thousands of responses back that were just, they were incredible, and learning people's journeys through it all. It's been really inspiring.
Yeah, it's just an unintended impact. But yeah, like we said, someone's always watching, regardless whether you think it or not. You're doing it, living your own life. But yeah, there's always somebody watching, somebody being inspired. So no, again, I appreciate it and congratulations.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Hope to see you again soon. Thanks again for your time.
Yeah, it was great chatting.
Take it easy, Raquel. Cheers.
Cheers.